All right. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for taking time out of your Sunday afternoon to join us. This is all about the authors. This is the authors roundtable that we do typically every second and fourth Sunday at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Every once in a while, technology might be smooth as silk or smooth as sandpaper. Today it was kind of smooth as sandpaper, but that's all right. We're making it happen. To best enjoy today's live stream, if you add the page All About the Authors 520 on Facebook, and we're also cross posting it on my author page, author Andrew Snorton. Later on during the week, if you add All About the Authors 520 on Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube, we'll provide the hots for today as well as the full uh, live chat. And of course, show how much you care. Just hit that button that says share, and you're good to go. My name is Andrew Snorton. I'm one of the co-hosts for today. Written 3 books, recorded 3 audiobooks, and we will get to like our individual stuff a little bit later because the spotlight's really going to be on our host, on our guest author. But I want to take a moment to time to acknowledge my co-host who helps keep it together and everything. Tyressa Ty, how you doing this afternoon?
I am super duper blessed, excited as always to spend this time with you, as well as our special guest. Today, we have the honor of having Mr. Chuck Smoot. So I am totally excited about that, just to hear what he has to share with us.
Awesome, awesome. And like we said before, Ty and I will at the end will recap the work that we're doing. But today, as it is every day we do this, the spotlight is on our guest authors. We are always excited, whether it's a first time, umpteenth time, what have you. We are blessed with every author that we've had since we started back in March. Today is no exception to have a colleague, a fraternal brother, representing Chi-Town and everything.
Right.
Just don't bring the hawk with you. Keep the hawk up top.
No, I need to share. I need to share it with some people. Sharing is caring.
Sharing is caring, but we're going to make an exception today. Don't bring that cold weather around these parts. Look, I grew up in that mess. I retired.
Oh well,
a beautiful warm day in Atlanta today. So that was kind of shocking.
Well, we don't want y'all to get too spoiled,
Yeah.
I tell you what, we appreciate you being out here. So, Chuck, before we get started into your book, please give everybody a point of reference where you are originally from, where you're based out of, and what are some of your other moving parts in addition to being an author.
Well, first of all, I want to thank you both for having me. It's a pleasure to be here and to talk with you. Again, Chuck Smoot, native of Chicago, born and raised. Actually, for Atlanta folks, I did attend Morehouse for a minute. Probably had too much fun. That's why I had to come back up here to Chicago. I am been a member of Alpha Phi Alpha for this year will mark my 34th year. I currently have the pleasure of serving as the historian for the District of Illinois, which is what led me into writing the book. I also serve as an alumni advisor for the Theta chapter of Alpha Phi Alpha, where I was initiated. In addition to that, I am the National Director of College Affairs for the 12th Round Foundation, which is an organization dedicated to domestic violence and abuse, education and prevention. Another Atlanta link because the foundation is based out of Atlanta, actually, was founded by Drea Kelly, the former wife of R. Kelly. So we do a lot of work on domestic violence education and things like that. And, I'm an still an amateur author, amateur historian. When I became district historian, it was with the caveat that before I accepted, I had to agree to write a book. So that was my being voluntold. And, it was a pleasure to do it and pleasure to come on and talk to you guys about it.
Yeah, and definitely before getting into your book, definitely kudos in regards to your community engagement, not only through the lens of your fraternity, but like you said before, a nonprofit that really helps address an area of concern. So we definitely commend you for the civic engagement that you're already doing. So
Thank you for
now
that.
it's interesting that you're writing a history book, because sometimes we hear history, it's like, oh my goodness, we're learning about dead people. Stuff that's like, why? No, I used to teach social studies. And when you're teaching,
Right.
no, but for real, Ty, like when you teach history, and it's not just something that younger people say, even old people, why do I need to learn about stuff that has nothing to do with me? Or some people would argue your book is looking through the lens of your fraternal organization. What does that stuff have to do with me? I'm not a member of this or a member of that. So walk through with us the evolution of compiling the history, some of the key themes that you're able to cover, but in doing this, why the general public should be aware of this particular work.
Well, yeah, I mean, and that's a great question. I mean, we have to take into context, Alpha Phi Alpha is the oldest collegiate Black Greek letter organization in the country, founded in 1906. So, we've been around. We just celebrated, you know, just had an anniversary celebration in December. What we are, as I said, I was initiated into Theta chapter, which is the 8th oldest chapter in the fraternity. It started in 1910, and that is when Alpha Phi Alpha came to Illinois. One of the reasons for the book is, sometimes we as Black people, we do a very poor job of telling our own history, of tooting our own horn, but then we'll get upset when other people tell it incorrectly. And one of the purposes of this book was to begin to shine a light, not just on, I mean, yes, it's a fraternity book, but to show how the lives of a fraternity and lives of men who were initiated in the fraternity have intersected through other areas of the community. For instance, one of the most popular aspects of my book, which was quite accidental, is the role that Alpha Phi Alpha had in preserving the house of the late Honorable Elijah Muhammad. What some people don't know is after Elijah Muhammad passed away, there were fights within the Muhammad family regarding the house and regarding the estate. And the house that Elijah Muhammad lived in went up for foreclosure. And somehow the fraternity was able to temporarily buy the house on behalf of the Nation of Islam, hold it, made an agreement, and then sold the house back to the Nation of Islam, thereby preserving an aspect of Black history, of preserving something relevant to the Nation of Islam. And these are things that you don't expect to hear a fraternity gets involved in. And when I heard this story, I had never heard it before I started working on the book. And, these are the types of stories that we tell. You say that history isn't just about dead people. One of the things about turn of 20th century Black America that I always say is our ancestors did a lot more with a lot less. They had, we often tell that when our founding members, whether it's our fraternity or other organizations, particularly who were founded on white campuses, the type of rampant racism that they experienced just to get an education, just to both alphas and kappas, members of Kappa Alpha Psi will talk about early members having to walk past people who had been lynched, still hanging in trees just to go to class, having to sit outside of a class, not learning in, so being allowed into the class. So the point about learning in the history is appreciating what our ancestors did with the reduced resources that they had. but still had all these wonderful accomplishments. But also, I do highlight a number of living individuals. One person I always like to talk about, a gentleman by the name of Ernest Jackson, excuse me, who is from the East St. Louis, Illinois area, who is the only Black forensic dentist in the world, not in the country, but in the world. He is someone, he's a fantastic individual. He was over Desert Storm, uh, identifying the remains of soldiers and, helped to take care of our soldiers during Desert Storm. And he's someone who's still active he was in the military. He still does stuff with the military, with the he lives in Missouri. So he's still very active, and to be able to tell his story as someone who has achieved what he has achieved. Again, the only Black forensic dentist, I didn't even know forensic dentistry was a thing, to be honest. But then to learn about this person's accomplishments and be able to highlight them in my book as a tangible example of what we're still doing and how we as Black men and member of an organization are still making an impact, all these years later.
And I'm glad you shared that, because number one of the things you talked about, especially with the Elijah Muhammad piece, is the organization isn't insular. It's a community-based organization.
Right.
And to go within the community, and especially going across the faith community, that's probably something, like you said, not only people in Illinois didn't know, is probably, obviously it's broader than that.
Exactly.
And then, like you said before, the living history piece, I've heard of forensic science. I have not heard of forensic dentistry. I've heard of I've heard of the dentist assistant, but I have not heard of forensic dentistry.
Exactly.
But I'll tell you what's awesome.
Funny today, Drew.
I ain't heard about that stuff before. I ain't heard of that. But I'll tell you what's awesome about you sharing that, because I know I'm not the only one that hadn't heard of it. And now what you're doing is you're putting people in a position to discover,
right,
to research more,
exactly,
career paths, things along those lines. So indirectly, with you talking about the previous history and the living history, you're doing a measure of seed planting, to be honest with you.
And it's funny. I was having a conversation about this very thing. We always talk about people with their, highfalutin jobs, the big lawyers, the big doctors and stuff. One thing Dr. Jackson told me when I was interviewing him is how he got into this is simply because he liked math, simply because he had an affinity for math. And thankfully, it was identified by some of his teachers and his parents. But he got on the path that he is on now simply because he had a love of math. And we can take that story. If you have a love of writing, if you have a love of reading, if you have a love of a number of things, it can lead you to a fulfilling career, a fulfilling vocation. Not that you necessarily will be in the, top 1% of, everything, but you can have a fulfilling career and make an impact simply based on the fact that you like to do numbers. Now, I hate math personally. I think math is evil. but if we have so many young brothers and sisters out today who don't recognize that because they are good at math, they too can be doctors, that they can be scientists, that they can be a number of things. And it starts with something very simple. And that was one of the things I took from the story of Dr. Jackson, is that his path started from something very simple and basic about how he liked to do math and did math in his spare time as a hobby. And that is inspiring to me, not only because I can't do math, but there's hope for a number of young people who think that their hobbies are useless and it won't take them
You made some really good points. And Ty, I know you can run with this in regards to pursuing your passion. What were some things that you were thinking about as Mr. Smoot was really, really kind of breaking that down?
Well, honestly, okay, I'm with you on not liking math, but I do like money. So I like to carry money.
Okay, fair
That
point. Fair
we
point.
have something we have something in common. But I was listening to, just some of the things you were saying, and it's impressive. And I just want to applaud you for taking a different approach. And I'm always excited when we have different guests on, us both being authors, him more of an author than me, of course. I like to call myself the journey journal girl, because I'm really big on journals.
Okay.
But which is it's documenting just kind of
Right.
what you did. The journey. And I was just like, wow, like I learned something new today. And I thought it was very honorable of, like what the fraternity did to save that particular home. And that's now written in history, but it's so many things that we don't know. And
Right.
so I'm always intrigued by different authors that come in and their approach to writing, and how they're able to tap into something totally different from each other, like from us, from the previous authors. And so although, when Drew was saying how, typically off the top of our heads, we say, oh, history, bummer, that sucks. We don't want to hear anything about history. As we become more, I'll say, wiser and mature in our way of thinking, history is everything, because it is who we are today. It helps us to be able to map out what we need to do, and help us to avoid things that we shouldn't do, because someone else has already paved the way or made the mistakes, and help us do things in a more viable way, if you will. So I just, like, when I was listening to you, I'm like, wow, this kind of went a different direction than what I thought, because I'm like, I didn't think necessarily, I never think that when you, as relates to books, that it's going to be boring, but for me, it's just intriguing, because I can only imagine all the other pieces that you have in the book. And that's why it's so important. And back to his question, and he knows that I go all around the world to say what I got to say sometimes. But I said all that to say, it's passion for you, right? Because it's so important for you to operate in your purpose and in your passion that God has designed for you. It's your journey. Everybody has their own individual journey, and you're writing your vision and your journey, right? And so when you do what you're purposed to do, the Bible says that God will make room for your gift. And that's exactly what he's doing. Because, from the naked eye, you think history, oh, it's going to be boring. Like you said, he said it a lot more funnier than I did. But, because it's your gift, and it's because God allowed you to create it in such a way that was, that was designed for you to do. When I hear it, it sounds intriguing. It doesn't sound boring. It sounds like I want to know more. And that's why you can't say, I want to write a book about jokes, when God did not say write a book about jokes. He designed you to do that. And because he did that, when I hear it, I can receive it. Does that make sense?
No, it makes perfect sense. And one thing I say is that, I always had an interest in history, going way back. But I had the person who really, there's one of my fraternity brothers who really inspired me and taught me about history, a gentleman from both my undergraduate chapter, and he's in my alumni chapter, by name of brother Dickie Lawson, Richard Lawson, we call him Dickie. But, this is one of these brothers that has an encyclopedic memory of history and facts, and we would talk, and like I can talk to him for 3 or 4 hours and just listen and observe. And when we were put together, that gave me the ability to say, oh, well, I can really do something with this, and I'm getting the tips on how to go about doing this, how to research, what ways to look at, correcting misinformation that I had held for a number of years. And so, I consider it a blessing that Brother Lawson was put in my path. And not only is he a mentor, but he's a friend.
Right.
And so another relationship built as a result of that. And, I'm grateful that he has been able and still schools me on stuff. I called him 2 days ago, asking him questions. What about so-and-so and so-and-so? He's like, oh no, you got that wrong. And, and never being above, but he's gregarious. And a lot of brothers from his era, he's a Vietnam vet. He got made in the early 60s, went to graduated from college, 62 or 63, but they're willing to share their knowledge. And the one thing that I've learned is we don't ask our elders enough about what they went through and what they experienced. We take things, let me mention this real quick. I had a thing with my mother. My mother went to Fisk, came out of Fisk in the mid 50s. I've always knew my mother was peripherally involved in the civil rights movement, but I never knew details until I introduced her to some of my younger frat brothers. And my mother's a member of Alpha Kappa Alpha.
Mhm.
And she sat them down, but told them how she was at the March on Washington. This was about 3 or 4 years ago. At that point, I was 46, 47 years old. I had never heard that story before.
Wow.
And I'm like, but she checked me because I was really a little insulted. I'm like, how did I never hear this? And she was like, you never asked. And it's as much as I don't want to admit my mother ever has a point on anything because she's my mother. But the reality is she was right. I never asked.
Women are typically right. I just want to add that.
Oh Lord, oh God, here we go with that. Well, don't you know you shouldn't be telling fibs on a Sunday? This is the Lord's Day.
Go, Mama was right.
It was right
and because
that
she's her
time.
mother, she wants to believe that she's always right. But that was a good point she made.
Exactly. But her overall point was I did not ask the questions. I did not engage that because I didn't think to. And so I think of all the other questions I didn't ask her or my grandparents or something. And that's something we need to do more to learn about ourselves, our family, and what our communities were like that created us to be where we are now.
Yeah. And that's something Drew, and I see him shaking his head, but that's just like running phrase to ask to what is it you always say to ask to know to be engaged, like some of the y'all you were saying what you were saying is like something he says a lot about just everyday life, like getting an understanding and asking and not being afraid to ask what it is that or whatever. And I know he was probably thinking kind of on the same lines when he heard you say that, because he says that a lot. Anybody who listens to him talk, he has his own phrase of the way he says it, but it's pretty much just the same thing you just said. To be heard, to ask, to engage, to listen, all those things is how you gain knowledge. And
right.
and pretty much what you were saying was, when your mom was saying when you didn't ask, when you ask, that leads to what? A conversation. Then she shares, and then from that, then typically you're going to create some type of dialogue, because she's going to say something that you're going to need more information. And then before it's over, it's kind of like with us, you're just sitting here like at an awe, like, wow, I didn't know that,
Right.
And that's pretty much it, so that was an interesting conversation you and your mom had. That was interesting.
Yeah, just to add to it, you made a valid point, and and Ty talks about this too as part of her routine in regards to, through the lens of faith and spirituality. When you're taking your time to pray, go ahead and share the desires of your heart and ask the question and ask for the direction and guidance. And what you said was so timely, because in a number of times, the reason that we don't know is, like you said, we don't ask the question. We don't ask to get a better point of reference. And even like at the very beginning, what I shared in jest is part of the assumption that people have when it comes to history. Why am I going to learn about this?
Right.
And just with what you shared not only those previous chapters or those topics, but then just bringing it back home and
Mhm.
asking the question, like you said, there is a body of work your mother has that you
Mhm.
weren't aware of.
Right.
And so that spurns on other questions about, a wide range of topics and giving you a point of reference and bouncing ideas off. So
Mhm.
even though your book is under the mantra of a fraternity's history within the state of Illinois, to make sure I'm correct, there
Mhm.
are takeaways that you can apply towards other areas, finding out more about your history, finding out more about who you are, your culture, how did you get here? The overlap that you don't always have to be insular. Who would, like I said, who would have thought, that backstory regarding the home of Elijah Muhammad?
Right.
I mean,
Right.
who would have thought that? And that can spur on, you know, other questions about, how did this get here? Why is this here? Who did this? So now you're stimulating activity, thought, and hopefully constructive action to continue to build, continue to grow, to allow us individually and collectively to be in a better space and place, and understanding, we stand on the shoulders of giants, known and unknown.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of unknown giants, and those are some of the people, excuse me, that I wanted to highlight because, as I tell my younger frat brothers all the time, when we talk about the men in our fraternity, we can talk about Martin Luther King all day long. We can talk about Thurgood Marshall. We can talk about Andrew Young, and these are great men. Don't get me wrong. They are fantastic men, and we owe these men a lot of debt. But there are a lot of unsung heroes. There are a lot of men that men and women that we've never heard of, who, Cornel West likes to invoke the name of Fannie Lou Hamer a lot when he's talking about the history of civil rights movement. And he does that because, in large part, until a few years ago, Fannie Lou Hamer really has been left out of the narrative of those major players in the civil rights movement, primarily because she was a woman, but also because she wasn't out front, so they think, oh, well, she's not as important. But I would say Fannie Lou Hamer was just as important to the civil rights movement as Dr. King was, but she doesn't get the attention. And this is what I tried to do with my book, is try to give attention to some of those individuals who have gone unsung, ignored, forgotten about, but to say these are men who have had an impact, not just on our fraternity, but on our society as a whole.
And I'm glad that you are really hitting that point home. And like you said, just because you're not in the spotlight, it doesn't make your contributions, more or less important.
Absolutely.
Everybody brings something to the table. Look, some people bring an appetizer, some bring an entree, some bring dessert, some might bring a brown paper bag and a couple of cups, but you still
I was
bring
gonna say somebody might just bring a half a bag of ice. So
but you still bring in something to
right.
contribute to the meal, contribute to the table. Let me ask you this question, and you've touched base on a number of topics, a number of themes, and obviously, one of the key points, that history is still living. What would you say when you look at the totality of this work? What would you say is one key theme? I know there's a number, but what would you say is one of the first themes that comes to mind that you would want readers, anyone, fraternity, general public, what's one key takeaway that you want readers to have when they look at this particular book?
I think the primary takeaway that I've always aimed for is, even though this is a book about men and things within a fraternity, that first and foremost, all of the men who I highlight, they were men first. Before they joined our fraternity, before they did whatever they did, they were men first. They were men who have made an impact and an accomplishment. And what I want people to take away from this is that even though we are a fraternity and there are a lot of, questionable things about fraternities, people have whatever ideas they have about what fraternities do. But I'm trying to show the human side of being in a fraternity, the individual side and the brotherhood, in that we're all, at the end of the day, we're all just men trying to continue upon the legacy that our ancestors started, both those in the fraternity and outside of the fraternity. And so this is a story about those people who we haven't heard about, but their impact, both large and small, are important, and that should be highlighted.
Absolutely. I agree.
Okay.
I agree. And I think as a part of our culture, so often, I mean, if you just date back to history, I remember my my little niece was we were talking and during the holidays, and she said, "Titi, did you know that black men were cowboys?" And it's, and it's just it's like when you think about like really everything that was created, most things as it relates to sports and entertainment and dances, beats, rhythm, rhyme, the caution light, the this, that, it was attached to somebody that was an African American.
Right.
We were the creative beings, right? And we were the ones, we were the masterminds, if you will, but it was ripped from us. The titles were ripped from us. And that's the way it's been from the beginning of time. So I commend you for, again, reaching back and sharing some of the unsung heroes. You could write so many stories because it could be so many volumes to this, and the second volume and the third volume and the fourth volume, because it's just so many people out there that have done amazing things that nobody knows about. You're looking at a little girl that is, a teenager, and she calls herself schooling me. But for her, she was amazed by the fact that Black people were cowboys because it's been attached to Caucasians for so many years. And we were the ones that taught them and did all these different things. And so if we don't tell our own story, they've already told our story the way they want to tell it, right? So if we don't tell our own story, then how will our, history will always be history, right? As people continue to be born, there will always be a history. And if we don't rewrite the story, then it's just their story that is being told. So I just, I commend you, and I say it's a lot more work for you to do. You done stepped into this water now. So you gotta
apparently.
Hold it down, and
apparently.
Yeah, you definitely gotta keep it going. And I would encourage you to, from a marketing standpoint, I always go there. I would just encourage you to really tap into the school systems and all of the fraternities and sororities that, as I am a member of Delta Sigma Theta and incorporated. And I think about all the, we participate in so many youth organizations and groups, and every fraternity and sorority has one. And so when we're gathering to do whatever we do, because it's all a part of an educational process and learning process when we meet with them on Saturdays, one Saturday a month, that they incorporate some of these learnings in what we do, and just try to get it out to the masses through organizations, through the channels of organizations, to get them to understand the value of it, and use that as a way of not just promoting it, because when we look at what we do it because we love it. We're passionate about it. Yes, we want to sell books, but the goal is for people to hear the story, to hear the message, the message and the vision that we're trying to deliver. We want them to grasp that more than anything. And after they get that, it'll sell itself. So I just encourage you to really push this thing out to the organization, so they'll hear these stories. Because I personally am, I have ADHD. So when I say things, history was never my favorite subject, but I am intrigued by certain things, and so for me, when I say that, the first thing you said, I was like, wow, I didn't know that,
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not a person that is, a person that is so, who I read, but again, with me having ADHD, I have to read things in sections. And I'm just being real transparent with you, if you don't mind.
Gotcha.
So I'm saying that, when you think about people reading something that's history, you think about, all these different, you will want to, you don't want to pull from what the negative connotation of history and reading is. And I'm just trying to tell you from a different personality that, you know what I'm saying, that there is value in this.
Right.
It's so much value in it for me. I think it's really a great thing. And I'm coming from a person that can't really sit down and read a lot of things. But if you package it right, just that one story you said makes me want to hear, well, what else I don't know?
Right.
Because it makes me challenge myself, And so I just wanted to share that with you. I hope it, it makes sense to you and resonates.
Oh, it definitely does.
But I think it's great. I really do. I just commend you for
I appreciate
taking a different approach.
Definitely appreciate that.
Yeah, definitely. So as we get ready to kind of, transition and whatnot, Chuck, if you could do us a favor, if you have a copy of the book, are you able to like show it on screen right quick?
Yep.
And give us the title, let us know where people may make a purchase, and then let people know the best ways to stay connected and engaged with you, because clearly this is your first, but it's not going to be your last.
It's not going to be the last, definitely.
I done already put it in the atmosphere. You got to do it now.
Yeah, so the book is called The Jewel of the Midwest, A History of Alpha Phi Alpha in Illinois. It is available on Amazon, both in paperback and as a Kindle. It is, the price is $25. Again, for transparency, I actually don't make any money off the book. All of the proceeds from the book go into scholarships for our college brothers, for them to help with their schooling and their academic achievements. So I'm actually ain't getting nothing with it. But it's a labor of love. I can be found on Twitter at the Rebel Deuce, TheRebelDeuce. And I'm on Instagram at Chuck Smoot 1906. So those are the best ways to find me.
All right. Wow.
Okay, Ty, I'd like for you to go ahead. Before I do the closeout, I'd like for you to kind of help, piece everything together. Anything else that you want to add?
No, I just want to say thank you, Mr. Smoot, for spending his time with us. And I want to thank Drew. He knows how to pick them. And I always be like, okay, let's see what he done. Let's see who we got this week.
All right. Well, thank you. Thank you.
And I just want to say thank you for, again, following your purpose and passion, because when you do it for you, you really do it for the world. When you follow your vision, we look at it as being a personal charge, and that's a good thing that we make ourselves accountable for our purpose and dreams. But it's, from a spiritual realm, it's always something greater than just for ourselves. Right. And you not only taking the time to write the book, do the research, and put it all together, and then you're donating it back to a scholarship form. It's just like, oh my God, I just seen an S on your chest. Like, whoa.
That's just from my last name. That's all.
You started off as just a good old alpha man. Now I see you as a Superman. Like, that is amazing.
Well, thank you, my sister. I truly appreciate that.
Thank you so much. And I just want to thank you for spending time. I thank, Drew, again, like I say, for choosing you, and for you being here to, just educate us and motivate us and inspire us in your own way. As I close out, I just want to say again, I am Teresa Ty, his favorite co-host. His only co-host. I'll just be the favorite one. And you can find me on social media at FIYAH, Fire Teresa Ty, TYRESSATY. And of course, I have my book, Follow the Fire, FIYAH. And I have a series of journals. I have 14, as a matter of fact, right now, My time flies fast when you're having fun. 14 journals. My last and bestseller, Matters of the Mind, was released on last year, right after COVID. And it's a self-care journal, and it is self-care, accountability. It's really, really, really good for all people. And I always encourage people to get it. But I believe in writing the vision and making it plain. I believe in, I say it's a lot of things that their direction and things that God give us for us to live a fruitful life and a successful life. And I know we don't do all things, but those little things that we can do, we should hold ourselves accountable for doing. I mean, if we're a person of purpose and vision, that is definitely a key thing for me. When people asking me, how did you get here and how did you do that and how did you, experience all these things in life? And I said, I can't. I know you want me to give you a secret formula, but all I can tell you is that it's in the Word. And anything that we need to know is in the Word, and it's very clear. The Bible said, write the vision and make it plain. And so that's why I am a huge advocate of journals. I believe in writing. I've watched things manifest in my life by writing the vision. I have no problem. I support vision boards and vision parties and all those things. But again, if you're looking for extraordinary results and you're looking for miracles, wonders, blessings, and favor, the instruction says to write it. I believe writing is a healer as well. It allows you to release, and things you can't say, you can write it. And that also is a record. It's a record, and pretty much, goes in line with what you're saying. When you asking questions or you writing things down, when you many years from now, when God is taking you to glory, there will be a book, right, that has a nice gold A on it that will be your legacy that you wrote it. And my book derived from journaling. And so capturing that moment, some moments you won't get again. So I'm real big on, journaling, writing the vision and making it plain. And I believe from that point, again, God said we delight in him, he'll give us the desires of our heart. So those are just simple. That's the formula that I use when I am trying to manifest whatever it is that I desire in life. So if you want to know more about me, make sure you check me out. I have a link in my IG. It's my website. It tells you a lot more of my business, the good and the bad and the ugly. Just put it all out there.
Right.
And a way to contact me, you can also, I have merch and my books and coachings and all kind of other stuff. Just however you want to tap into my resources, I am available. I'm excited to work with, meet, and engage with new people. I'm available for panels and workshops and things of that nature. So I always encourage everyone to definitely tap in. Don't be a stranger. And I just love being a part of the family of authors. And we're just here to support everyone and make sure that we all have a different story. So there is no reason for competition. Nobody can tell our story the way we tell it, right?
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
continue to uplift, encourage, inspire, motivate, and cultivate our culture and put it out there for the masses to be able to get what they need from it. So that's my story, and make sure you follow me and reach out. I love to hear from everyone.
Okay,
Drew, it's on you, buddy.
all right. So in closing again, Andrew Snorton, the best way is to stay connected with me on Facebook, the Facebook page, author Andrew Snorton, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, author A Snorton. You can always email me at authorsnorton@gmail.com. And especially on Instagram, the links are there regarding all 3 books. My first one, Deeper Than Your Deepest Sleep, Thoughts on Love with Joseph Snorton for the poetry lovers. We did it a little bit differently, but it's definitely creative, engaging, things along those lines. The second book, 9 Stories of Faith, Volume 1, definitely stories of encouragement and empowerment. The most recent release, Nothing Minor, focuses on my 2019 coverage of minor league baseball across the Southeast. And also has a chapter on the Negro Leagues Museum in Birmingham, Alabama. So if 2020 being the centennial celebration for the Negro Leagues. And in light of this past Friday's news regarding Hank Aaron, a lot of people don't realize Hank Aaron, just like Willie Mays and other players of that era, got there in the Negro Leagues. So those are some pieces, the audiobook series, the author's mixtape, basically bringing this freestyle experience into writing, where all the writing, poetry, spoken word, music, basically did everything in studio. So you definitely want to check that out. I want to just close out with, something I hope is a good tie-in. It's from my second book, 9 Stories of Faith. And I'm going to read this closing note from one of the chapters. And it reads as follows. And it's all about your mindset. So it definitely ties in with what Ty said. It obviously ties in with what you did in regards to your approach to this book. But I'm going to read this and leave this with folks. If you have a mindset focused on negativity, that is all you'll see and experience. We feed and move off of energy. You get back what you put out. Feed and put out positivity, and your body will basically show it. Feed off other things, and it'll be completely different. Clearly, Chuck, positivity was the operative overriding theme, because you knew this was a story that needed to be told and shared. And it is, and on top of that, your book is an example of stewardship and outreach, because you're helping support that next generation of leaders, thinkers, doers, and creators. So again, even though it's done through the lenses of what is going on with the fraternity within the state of Illinois, you're leaving so many potential footprints. That legacy building, you're doing that with this book, and I'll put it on you to volunteer you. That's what we expect of you moving forward with future works.
I've already been voluntold for a second edition. I've already been voluntold.
And real talk, and Ty and I have these conversations on a regular basis, but there are times that she has voluntold me some stuff, and there's times I've just left a sticky note to say, hey, will you think about this? But real talk, we do feed off of energy. And we feed off of, what comes on here, what comes out here. So again, to reinforce, thank you for the work that you have done. Thank you for the work that you are doing. Thank you for the work that you still yet to do. And there's more for you. So keep history, whether through the fraternity or what have you, that's part of your passion and purpose. Please pursue it. Ty will tell you that with any of her journals. Look, once you've identified your passion and purpose, you owe it to more than just yourself to pursue it. There's people that need to hear from you. Absolutely. Just like there's people that need to hear directly from Ty. And there's people, I'll throw myself in there, that need to hear from but real talk, we're glad to do this. So I hope that note, that message just kind of reminds and reinforces not only everybody here, but folks who are watching or folks who are going to watch. Identify your passion and your purpose and pursue it to the fullest, because in the course of that, there's so many people, known and unknown, you're going to be able to help. There's so many people who, just like earlier, are going to be motivated to ask questions to find out more. So even in that, you're leaving a positive imprint. And on that note, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to look forward to doing this again in the month of February. Please make sure to share again on Facebook, All About the Authors. Make sure it's All About the Authors 520. And the reason why we use 520, month of May 2020. That's when we started. And make sure to add All About the Authors on your other social media platforms, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube. Make sure to have this on our YouTube channel during the week, and also during the week we'll chop up some highlights. So for people that need that spoon feeding or that appetizer portion, to absolutely the appetizer portion, that will encourage you to go ahead and eat the meal. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Ty.
No, I think my phone stopped. I was trying to talk and it stopped. I'm sorry. I apologize. Also, I want to make sure you all follow us, all of us as well, whoever may see this. And we forgot to add Clubhouse. So we're on Clubhouse as well. And we want to encourage everyone to follow us. So when we post this, we'll list all of the different social media sites that we're on. Mine is pretty much the same. on Clubhouse, I'm Teresa Todd Fire, because I couldn't do it the opposite way for some reason. But I just wanted to have that little ring to it, because people recognize me by the word fire. Some people even call me that when they see me in the store. They be like, fire. And I'm like, is it a fire? I'm looking to see if it's a story. This is a true story. I've had people several times to say that to me. And, you know, people will use the name very loosely as just a nickname for me. And so, you know, it's not really fun when you're in a building and somebody holler out fire, but
yeah.
but that's who I am. That's what people know me by. And so I just want to make sure that when we include all of those different platforms as we speak of following us, and we'll follow you back as well. This is a give and take. This is a relationship with us. We want to, this platform is used to bring, you know, exposure to people and to create a solid, not only a relationship, but a partnership, if you will, and collaboration, so that we can all, you know, move to the next level. Because you never know who you're talking to, and the things when you go check us out, you know, we're talking about being an author, but we do so many other things, and we just don't know how we can uplift, encourage, and, you know, where there's an opportunity for us all as we spend time together.
Okay. Well, on that note, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to call it a day. Until next time, continue to take good care. Be encouraged by what you've heard today. Don't keep it to yourself. Let somebody know. And again, show how much you care. You all need to do, go ahead and click on share. So make sure you're doing that. And until next time, y'all, take really good care. You just finished watching All About the Authors. Make sure to add All About the Authors 520 on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube. And make sure to check us out. We'll see you.